Thank you all for listening and watching my videos. Please subscribe and like my channel Master Coolitz. Hoping that you will not skip my ads, it's a big help for me by not skipping it. Thank you so much. Dragon Shadow. The Rise.
What? What did you say, Zora Mountains?
As soon as they heard the words Zora Mountains, the Violet Gate region representatives changed their expressions dramatically. They couldn't help taking a step back. Even Zane and the other two did not expect the name of the Zora Mountains would have such great power. Zane and the two exchanged a confused look.
Are you from the Zora Mountains? Could it be that you're the two individuals who've been hunting geniuses from various regions in this strange little world these days?
The story of Dante Kane and Ethan Haddon was like the earthquake center, shaking up the entire strange little world. Although many people had never seen Dante Kane and Ethan Haddon, they had more or less heard these two people kill people everywhere in the name of the Zora Mountains. Moreover, none of those who ran into them could stay alive. Thus, the 5 people from the Violet Gate region assumed Zane and the other two were Dante Kane and Ethan Haddon. But soon, they realized something. Dante Kane and Ethan Haddon were 2 individuals, but there were 3 people standing before them now. Hence, these 3 were not Dante Kane and Ethan Haddon.
No, you aren't them. How dare you try to intimidate us by pretending to be them? In your dreams, since you're from the Zora Mountains, you'd better hand over your storage rings before we kill you.
Zane and the others were rendered speechless. They did not say anything about their identities. However, this was also enough to prove Dante Kane and Ethan Haddon's names were powerful enough to intimidate enemies. Their names alone would make people fear them.
I don't want to kill you. You'd better get lost.
Don't want to kill us? What a joke. You're the one dying now.
The man shouted coldly, and his energy erupted. He rushed forward with a saber in his hand. A sharp sword energy whizzed past. Zane directly struck out another sword energy. Boom! Their attacks collided. Then, everyone saw the seemingly invincible saber was directly shattered by the sword energy. The sword energy did not slow down and pierced the man's heart. Thud! The next moment, the man's face was full of unwillingness. He clutched his chest and fell into a pool of his blood, losing his vitality. Buzz! His body emitted a burst of spiritual light, and a fist-sized martial spirit escaped in panic.
Martial Spirit, run now.
Upon seeing this, the others changed their expressions in fear. How did Zane defeat a top martial artist in the 6th stage of the Mahayana realm in only 1 round? Moreover, this man was a 2-star genius that could cross and challenge opponents from 2 realms. If Zane was able to finish him off with a single move, wouldn't that mean that Zane was a 3-star or even a 4-star genius? At the thought that they were going to find trouble with a 4-star genius, everyone's faces turned pale, and they quickly fled the scene. Swoosh, swoosh, Victor and Medicine appeared in a flash and blocked their paths. Zane slowly walked toward the martial spirit and the other 4. He sneered and said,
Do you think you can come and go as you like? It proves you don't take me seriously.
What the hell do you want from us?
Their faces changed dramatically. They thought Zane wanted to kill them, or he would at least want to snatch their storage rings. However, that was not the case.
Tell me more about the 2 individuals who killed the geniuses of various regions and claimed to be disciples of the Zora Mountains.
Ever since he heard this story, Zane was very curious about who else aside from him and Victor could possess such talents from a small place like the Zora Mountains. Everyone was slightly startled. Then one of them took out a fist-sized crystal ball and injected a silver coin cyclone into it. Instantly, an image appeared on the crystal ball.
This is the recording stone. When the strongest person in our Violet Gate region ran into those 2 people, he sent us an image of them, but we couldn't reach out to our senior after that.
Zane and the 2 took over the recording stone and stared at the image. 2 guys, whose bodies were glowing with green light, were confronting the person from the Violet Gate region and attacking him with lightning powers. They felt their hearts clutch at the cruelty of their attacks. The so-called strongest person from the Violet Gate region had his flesh separated from his skeleton.
Isn't this Leonard Hunter? Don't tell me the one next to him is Arthur Conan.
Zane was shocked and furrowed his brows. Although the recording stone image was a little vague and could not be seen clearly, Zane had dealt with these two before, so he could recognize them at a glance.
Leonard Hunter, Arthur Conan, are you saying it's the two of them who have been hunting for geniuses these days?
Victor and Medicine's expressions also changed drastically. In their impression, these two had ordinary strengths that barely made an impression on them.
Leonard Hunter? No.
At that time, the strongest person from our region also sent back a message, telling us the strongest one is named Dante Kane, whereas the other is called Ethan Hatton.
The young man shook his head and denied their claims. What happened? They were obviously Leonard Hunter and Arthur Conan. Why did they change their names? Zane continued observing the image. Leonard Hunter was the best in his art of sword, but his body was currently emitting green light. All of his attacks were filled with an extremely dense negative energy. Could it be that Leonard Hunter had some fortuitous encounters within this period? Zane was yet to find the answer. He put away the recording stone and dismissed the five. Those five quickly fled. Still, the woman did not answer. What's the issue? The three of them looked at each other in dismay. They leaned closer to the woman, and their expressions suddenly changed. The woman looked dull, and her eyes were empty. She opened her mouth slightly, with drool flowing out from the corners of her mouth, almost soaking her clothes. Her body was constantly wandering like a zombie. The only difference was that zombies would take the initiative to attack passers-by. In contrast, the woman would not turn around even if she bumped into Medicine or an object. Instead, she kept colliding with them. She was like a mentally challenged individual. The scene was too eerie. The three turned solemn. Among the 30 people present, everyone's symptoms were exactly the same as this woman's.
Why is she acting like a fool?
A fool?
Zane Martel and Victor Quinn tacitly exchanged a look. They frowned and walked to the woman's side, placing a hand on the woman's shoulder. Then both of them released a burst of willpower and spread it into the woman's consciousness. Zane's willpower wriggled a few times like a strand of hair as it drilled into the space between the woman's eyebrows. The woman's consciousness was gray and dull, as if it were the end of the world. No light could be seen. He searched for a long time, but he could not find even a trace of willpower energy in this small consciousness. Zane withdrew his willpower.
Her willpower is drained.
Her willpower is drained?
The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Zane's and Victor's willpower effortlessly entered her consciousness. A normal person's consciousness was like a house with a closed door. It was not easy for others to invade it with their willpower, and they would usually be left outside. Still, both of them had tried and found that there was no trace of rejection from the woman's consciousness. In addition, they had probed the woman's consciousness. They didn't even find a trace of willpower, not to mention willpower energy. There was only one possibility for this to happen, which was that all of her willpower had been drained, and she had become a walking dead.
Her willpower is drained?
Medicine Costa changed his expression drastically.
How could this be? Is it because of the South Sea Dragon Meridian? If that's true, the South Sea Dragon Meridian is too creepy.
It may not have anything to do with the South Sea Dragon Meridian. As far as I know, it seems impossible to extract other people's willpower, but there are exemptions to it. We can't blame this on the South Sea Dragon Meridian. Someone might be behind this.
Victor Quinn's understanding and research of willpower were far beyond that of ordinary people. He even studied the merging of the power of nature. He was absolutely a genius. Thus, Zane Martel agreed a lot with what Victor Quinn said.
That's strange. If their willpower is drained, it's no different from them being dead. But how are they still holding their storage rings?
No, I can't be so wasteful. Since we can't save them, we might as well do something kind and take their storage rings away with us.
The next moment, Victor Quinn's eyes shot out rays of light, sweeping over these walking corpses. Then he leaped and appeared next to them. He took off their storage rings and put them away one by one. From the looks of it, he was planning to go first and not share it with the other two.
I'm getting these storage rings. Don't snatch them from me.
Speaking of which, he acted very quickly for fear that the two would snatch the rings from him. Zane Martel and Medicine Costa smiled at that scene and did not intend to fight for it. After he was done collecting the storage rings for the sake of safety, the three rose into the air again and flew along the mountain range to the depths of the sea. 2 hours had passed since then. Along their journey, Zane Martel and the other two met quite a number of people. However, without exception, they all had their willpower drained and had become walking dead. They only felt that the South Sea Dragon Meridian was getting more and more strange.
Look, there are people there too. Judging from their movements, they don't look like the Walking Dead.
Victor Quinn pointed down. On a mountain peak, there were dozens of people meditating and cultivating.
Let's go there and have a look.
The three flew down.
This is such a horrifying power of nature. No, it's not an exaggeration to say this is the Decasource of nature.
On top of a huge stone wall on the mountain peak was a huge piece of golden rock that was dozens of meters long and embedded in the stone wall. As soon as they drew near, the dense nature element of gold was released from within the rock, filling the entire space. Near the stone wall were more than 30 people standing in different positions, meditating or looking at the golden stone in silence. Their eyes were shining. It was obvious that they were comprehending the power of metal. The three had no idea about the rock's background, but it actually released a Decasource of metal that made everyone here tremble with fear. The Decasource of nature was more profound and mysterious than the power of nature. Only by reaching the limit of the power of nature and breaking through the limit would it be possible to touch the threshold of the Decasource of nature. Thus, many people used the rock's Decasource of metal to comprehend the power of metal or to break through the power of metal. Seeing this, Medicine Costa and Victor Quinn were delighted. They also sat on the ground and began to understand the power of metal. Zane Martel also sat down and tried to see if he could comprehend anything. However, he couldn't understand the power of metal. He couldn't figure out the source of the power of metal. Half an hour later, Victor Quinn and Medicine Costa suddenly opened their eyes, looking delighted. Their auras seemed stronger than before.
Ha ha ha, this place is amazing. Originally, I was at the minor completion of the power of metal, but after observing for a while, I achieved a breakthrough.
I found that I've also touched the threshold of power of metal.
Only Zane Martel was in a terrible mood. He had not understood anything after spending half an hour. Then, Victor Quinn and Medicine Costa looked at each other, feeling a little guilty. Victor Quinn walked over, put his arm around Zane Martel's shoulder and said with guilt,
Zane, I'm afraid we can't accompany you to complete the South Sea Dragon Meridian trip. The power of metal is my shortcoming. If I can comprehend the major completion of the power of metal and assimilate the last willpower energy, my strength will reach a higher level, so...
He stopped talking. Zane Martel smiled at that. Of course, he knew Victor Quinn's talents. He also knew Victor Quinn could already merge two different powers of nature and was trying to integrate the third power of nature. Moreover, the stone before them possessed the Decasource of metal. With Victor Quinn's talent, he might be able to comprehend the power of metal to its extreme and directly comprehend the Decasource of metal.
Victor, this Decasource of metal is an excellent opportunity for you. Staying here may be the best for you and Medicine Costa. If I had also comprehended the power of metal, I might choose to stay here too. Don't worry, you can stay here to cultivate.
Zane Martel bid the two farewell. Before he left, he told them not to reveal to anyone that they were from the Tranquil City region. Now, because of Leonard Hunter and Arthur Conan, or Dante Kane and Ethan Haddon to be exact, their background of being from the Tranquil City region had become a rather sensitive topic. As for Zane Martell, since he possessed the devouring dragon bloodline, he was naturally more attracted to the real Dragon Meridian.